Please turn to page 5 for your Common Core State Standards. The Common Core State Standards provide teachers with the exact skills they need to teach their students at each grade level from K through 12. These standards, which connect from one grade level to the next so that they are building, focus on children reading, writing, speaking, and thinking at really deep levels. The Common Core Standards outline exactly what teachers need to teach. But the next question that teachers have are always, how do I teach my kids these standards? How do I provide every student with instruction so that they can meet the standards? So what I'm doing in this book is I'm giving you the how. I'm going to give you the strategies. I'm going to give you techniques and methods so that you can teach your students to write at standard. And what I provided are school-wide stages of writing. These stages of writing connect with your standards. So when you're teaching these writing stages, you're teaching your standards. But here's the beauty of these stages of writing. These stages are lessons that are packed with strategies and tools that provide you with the best teaching practices so that all your students can write at standard. Let's look at research that backs what I'm going to show you in this manual. First, I'm going to start with Writing Next. Writing Next is research conducted by Graham and Perlin. This was a meta-analysis study in which they pulled together research so that they could find the best writing strategies. Then they ranked those writing strategies by their effect size. They ranked teaching writing strategies number 1, and that means explicitly and systematically teaching kids strategies for planning, drafting, editing, revising, and regulating the writing process. This means that we need to not just stand and model a strategy and say, boy, I hope you figure out what I just showed you. We need to actually show children step by step. This is what I'm doing in my brain when I'm planning my writing, when I'm writing out my text, when I'm editing, when I'm revising. All those parts of the writing process need to be explicitly taught to our children. When we do have explicit systematic instruction, that will have the highest effect size for improving children's writing. Hence, my school-wide stages of writing, in which you will provide children with systematic instruction so that they metacognitively understand how to plan their writing. What do I mean by that? What happens in your brain? What does your brain need to do in order to plan a narrative, to plan information, to plan a persuasive piece of writing? This is giving children that step-by-step understanding of how to write. Looking at other strategies that were ranked high in Writing Next are summarizing, which you will see in this manual, as well as collaborating and specific product goals, using word processors, teaching complex sentences. Notice once I get to point 5, I haven't included the other strategies. And the reason for that is once you get below that point 5, you're not seeing as much of a bang for your instruction as the point 5 and above. We're going to look at how we can pull together so many of these different techniques in order to have your children reach those highest levels of writing. Another researcher that I would like for you to look at is Willingham. Daniel Willingham is a cognitive scientist. He wrote a book called Why Don't Students Like School? And several of his findings showed the brain finds it difficult to learn, that the brain needs many repetitions in order to master and have that level of automaticity when it comes to different types of skills and new understandings. What he shows in his research is that your brain needs to repeatedly perform tasks over and over before they become automatic. So that could be pretty boring. One of the things that I want to tell you is I took into account the fact that the brain needs many repetitions, but in my instructional program, you're going to see best teaching practices along with techniques that can provide that repetition that students need in order to master and have automaticity when it comes to different skills, specifically in writing. This is just like someone who is playing a sport. For instance, a child trying to learn how to make a layup in basketball. When they first try it, they have no idea what they're doing. So what we do is we explicitly show them what they need to do in order to make a layup. That child will not master that layup with 1 or 2 tries. They have to constantly practice over and over, repeating that process until finally it just becomes automatic and they don't think about it. So that whole idea of repetitions is so that the brain overlearns these different types of skills to the point where it becomes automatic. And in order to do that, we explicitly show children what they need to do, and in this case, how to write, how to plan their papers, write their papers, revise, edit their papers explicitly, and they need to repeat this over and over again until it becomes automatic. They can perform these different skills independently on their own. One last thing I want to point out is this last quote of Willingham's, and that is where he's talking about teachers in the classroom. When we are trying to teach our children, instead of thinking about making the work easier, we need to make the thinking easier. I took that whole idea of Willingham's. Instead of making work easier, I wanted to provide children with the instruction. That's that metacognitive instruction. What is your brain doing in order to write? And that instruction should make it easy for children. And that's what we're going to do in this manual. We're going to provide children with systematic instruction that is packed with all those good teaching strategies, all the skills that the children need to learn in order to have really high levels of good writing and to match it to your Common Core state standards, making it as easy as possible and enjoyable so that it's fun and engaging for your students. Let's go into our manual so that we can start looking at your standards as well as how I've put together this system. In order to have an understanding of the information that I just spoke about, let's turn to page 10, the last page of this chapter, before we review all of the elements that I have. At the top of page 10, you will see the 3 domains of writing that are in our Common Core state standards from kinder through 12th grade. And that is narrative writing, informative explanatory, and then under the persuasive umbrella, we have K through 5 opinion writing, and then when you hit 6th grade, it turns into an argument. As we go down to the next section of that paper, what you will see are the stages of writing. For narrative, I have 8 stages, 1 through 8, and different stages are assigned to each grade level. For informative explanatory, there are 11 stages. And finally, for opinion and argumentative, we have 10 stages. These stages are for K through 6. Now let's make sense of all these stages. Let's go down to my matrix. And this matrix is an at-a-glance picture of all my stages of writing and your 3 different genres that you're focusing on in your Common Core state standards. So if you notice, I have your narrative, informative explanatory, opinion, argumentative. Then I have the K through 6 grade levels aligned to the stages that they teach for each one of these genres. For example, let's look at grade 4. If you're teaching a narrative, grade 4 is assigned stages 6 and 7. So as a 4th grade teacher, I know that I will probably begin my year with stage 6. Stage 6 will be a lesson that is packed with all kinds of strategies and skills to teach my students narrative writing. Then I will move up as my students master those skills to stage 7. When I finally hit stage 7, my students will then be writing at standard. So why do I have several stages? Because when you start the beginning of the year, you're starting your students with sometimes a review of the previous year, overlapping what the students had ended the previous year, teaching them those lessons, and then you are going to move on and continue your instruction, because that's the whole idea of teaching. Students are learning as the year progresses. You usually have 2 to 3 stages at your grade level where you will begin and progress through. You will want to analyze your students' writing and determine from there what stage your students need to begin at. You may be starting the beginning of the year at stage 6 or stage 7. Or you may need to go back and start at an earlier stage. You never know. What's nice is I do have videos for K1 and 2-3. So if you notice that your students need to go back a level, you can refer to those videos so you can begin your students at those stages. But overall, you're typically staying within the stages that are assigned at your grade level. So this matrix is providing you with an at-a-glance table for you to identify what stages are assigned to your grade level, where should you start, what is your ending point, so that you have lessons that are packed with these dynamic strategies, but they also are aligned and match your standards. Now let's go back into this chapter to pages 6, 7, and 8 so I can show you how I've pulled your Common Core state standards for each one of your writing genres. On page 6, what you will find are 3 boxes. In each box, I have your Common Core state standards, and on this page, for narrative writing. Grade 4, here are your Common Core state standards. Grade 5, you are in the top right box, and the bottom box is for grade 6. These are your standards. I pull them out and put them here so that you can quickly have this as a reference for the skills that the Common Core state standards have assigned to your grade level. Notice also in each box, I provided you with the stages of writing that are assigned to your grade level so that you meet these standards. Let's look at page 7. On page 7, these are your Common Core state standards for informative explanatory writing. Grades 4, 5, and 6 have the standards in each box, as well as the writing lessons that are assigned to your grade level to match your standards. Let's turn to the next page so we can look at the opinion argumentative writing, which is under the persuasive umbrella. On page 8, we have opinion writing for grades 4, 5, and then argumentative writing for grade 6. Your standards are in each box with the stages of writing assigned to your grade level. So we've looked at what we need to teach with our Common Core state standards. I've discussed my stages of writing, which is the how to teach, but I want to go a little further into the how of teaching, and that is to discuss graphic organizers. Let's look at page 9. On page 9, I have school-wide graphic organizers. All you use is plain paper. These are not organizers that you duplicate. And notice there's only 3 organizers. And for grades 4 and 6, you will only be using the bottom 2 organizers depending on the type of writing. And that's important because so many times children are given duplicated graphic organizers to fill in. The whole point of a graphic organizer is that it provides children with a physical expression of their thoughts, and it helps them organize their thoughts and ideas so they can write. And in your case, narratives, informative explanatory writing, or opinion or argumentative writing. And it's important that children have a way to organize their writing. But it needs to be easy and fast. And by having an organizer where, in this case, look at the middle one, we're only putting 2 lines and we have 3 boxes. There it is, the organizer is ready to go. And the bottom one, where you have 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, and now that organizer is ready for you to plan your paper. These organizers are easy to make, and they also are open enough so that we don't stilt a child's writing. Remember, this is a physical expression of a child's ideas and writing. We're guiding them to help them understand how to organize their thoughts and ideas so they have everything they need in order to write, but they also have it open enough so that they don't lose their personality, their own style in this organizational process. That's critical. So instead of having some complex organizers, these are simple, easy to make organizers, which provide children with that balance of staying organized, having the ideas that you need in your writing, but at the same time, it's free enough so the student doesn't lose their style and their own voice. And that's critical. So we want that balance of providing children with instructional tool that they can organize their thoughts and ideas, but we don't want to lose that child's ideas, their personality, their voice. One last point that I want to make. Not only are these organizers easy to make, but when you're using these organizers, they are for narrative, informative, explanatory, as well as for opinion writing or argumentative writing. So that means that students are going to see the similarities between these different genres, but also learn how to write each genre specifically. So they don't have to constantly be changing different organizers. So that's another piece. Not only is this simple and open-ended to keep that style, but it's going to cross over from one genre to another. So they're only learning one or two organizers, and that is it. So we've looked at our Common Core, we've looked at the stages of writing, we've looked at the organizers. Next, let's go into when do you teach writing in your instructional program? And that is a very critical question because writing now requires that students are not just writing in a writing block. Our Common Core is focusing on children integrating writing throughout the core subjects. So how are we going to do that? Let's go to the next chapter where I show you how to integrate writing across the curriculum.